You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's October the 7th, and from the Legacy420.com news desk, welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. Good morning, Rev Cindy. Welcome back.
Good morning, Al. Thank you.
And how are you? How are you doing?
I am. I'm well. I am. Actually, what I found funny about this whole trip is when I arrived back in Toronto last Thursday, I immediately went into allergy attack. Being down in a little tiny town of Tepoztlan in Mexico, there's no pollution in the air. There's like everything is very clean and very pure. So when I landed back in the concrete jungle of Toronto, I was hit with like all of the allergens that I didn't have to deal with in Mexico, and I've been kind of sick since.
You do sound a little bit stuffed up there, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Great. All right. Well, I'm sure tomorrow on the Mushy Moment, I don't know, I'm assuming you're going to probably talk about your trip. So I don't want you to give out all the details, but as you said, you had a great time, and and look at that. Got the certificate. Nice. Here, hang on a second. Bring that back up again. There you go. There you go. Good. Good. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
All right. And now you're back doing the news. You've been off for a month. So let's see how things go. All right. First story of the day is up.
Coming to us from Phelim today, research unpacks impact of cannabis legalization on medical sales.
I was curious about this. I see it's from Brock University. On October the 7th, marketing the 6th anniversary of Canada's legalization of recreational cannabis, a Brock researcher says it's time to examine how the process has impacted the medical cannabis market. Associate Professor of Operations Research Michael Armstrong's new study shows that while the shift to nationwide legalization was accompanied by fewer patients in the medical market, access to recreational cannabis hasn't made the program obsolete.
Overall, many patients did leave Canada's medical cannabis system around the time of legalization, but that decline may not have been all bad news. It might partly have represented a right sizing of the system, with some people exiting who maybe shouldn't have been there in the first place, Armstrong said. The data also shows patients who remained in the medical system stabilized their purchasing rates and increased their purchase sizes, suggesting there is still a legitimate appetite for the medical cannabis system. In a newly published Associations between Canada's recreational cannabis legalization and medical cannabis patient activity 2017 to 2022, Armstrong examined Health Canada data regarding how many patients registered to use medical cannabis, how often they purchased, and how much they bought per order.
He then looked for behavioral patterns coinciding with the passage of the Cannabis Act in June of 2018, the launch of recreational cannabis in October 2018, and the arrival of edibles and other processed products in stores in December of 2019. While patient registrations have been increasing prior to legalization, the study showed the number of Canadians seeking medical cannabis licenses from Health Canada began changing in July of 2019 or 2018, right after the law was passed and months before it took effect.
Alberta saw the sharpest decline in registrations in the country when the act passed. In Ontario, by contrast, registration rates merely slowed down around that time, gradually leveling off later, said Armstrong. The study also showed there was little change to registrations or purchase sizes after cannabis stores first opened and sales officially began in October of 2018. Medical purchase frequencies, however, did decline. Armstrong says this may have been due to the retail stores offering the same product as medical suppliers at first, providing additional access to the product, but no real incentive to leave the system entirely.
Just easier to go to the store.
Quicker.
Yeah, quicker than waiting for it in the mail. Perhaps the biggest change in patient behavior came when cannabis offerings expanded to include products like edibles, beverages, and vapes. Registration numbers also fell during this time, but the frequency of purchases stabilized and the amount purchased per order grew. Now, Armstrong says it seems the remaining patients became more active after those products became available in late 2019. Producers with good selection of edibles, they have started getting larger orders, while other producers lost their patients to the recreational market and its wider selection.
As for what the future holds, Armstrong doesn't anticipate major fluctuations in these trends for the foreseeable future, unless the government were to make changes to the pricing structure or accessibility of medical cannabis. If the excise tax or sales tax on medical cannabis was removed, that could potentially make it cheaper and more attractive than recreational cannabis, he says. If medical cannabis was available from the local drugstore, which also gives the buyer access to a pharmacist and some medical guidance, that could also lead to increased interest in the medical route.
Yeah, Canada's long history with medical cannabis and being a leader in cannabis legalization also makes it well equipped to serve as a model to other countries on what to expect as they navigate the legalization process, Armstrong says.
Yeah, simply put, the message would be that you should expect big changes to your medical market after legalization, but you shouldn't expect it to suddenly disappear. And that partly depends on variables like the product selections you have and how competitive the two systems are.
There you go. Yeah. I know the numbers have dropped as far as the patients. They report those numbers going down. But it's nice to me that they've leveled off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, there's so many patients that shouldn't just walk into the store.
No, it would be nice to see pharmacists trained a bit more and able to sit with say a new patient, that, is elderly and help them figure out which route they should go and what they should try.
Yeah, and there's Dr. Daniel Baer from Humber College in Toronto. He was working on something along that line.
Nice.
And it's people still have questions that they need to ask and don't have the answers. But there is some talk about it ending up in the pharmacies, or request. But will they ever get there? Who knows? So. Because it's a spot where, like you say, the elderly people go in, they get their medication, and they can also get the cannabis at the same time. And just good points and bad points. But I also know that they were against that in the beginning.
Isn't Shoppers Drug Mart?
Well, they were a producer of cannabis and all that stuff, but they've sold a lot of that stuff. They were originally. That's what they did. They were. I think that's what their goal was. But now, they've sold a lot of the stuff off. So
okay.
All righty, on to the next story.
Yes, coming to us from Green State Field Guide. Oh, listen, cancel that Guide newsletter. Psychedelics may be the answer to this high stress job.
Yes, first responders are there for people during some of the worst moments. Police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and all those who work in this sector experience high stress on a regular basis, which may lead to maladaptive anger or even occupational burnout. Resilience training has proven promising for offsetting the stress, but one recent published study suggests a trippier approach. The Journal of Psychedelic Studies published a paper expanding on the positive experience of first responders who consumed magic mushrooms.
Results can constitute an initial first step towards finding alternative solutions to address high rates of mental distress and illness, and all that cascade, of cumulative negative effects, the study authors wrote. The paper had promising results for emergency service workers seeking alternative treatment for occupational stress. There are notable limitations, most glaringly the 5-person sample size.
This sample number of study participants does not provide adequate data to test the research hypothesis or represent all UK first responders. Information was also self-reported, which can lead to issues. Researchers also stopped checking in after 2 months, so long-term feedback is lacking. But despite these limitations, this study marks an initial inquiry worth dissecting.
The paper focused on 5 emergency medical service workers who were already planning on taking a therapeutic dose of psilocybin for post-traumatic stress disorder. The amount of psilocybin consumed by each participant in the study is never listed, but since the article states that each person was already microdosing magic mushrooms, it's likely higher than a microdose. Each participant also answered survey questions to measure their occupational stress levels, PTSD severity, and quality of life. After the therapeutic trip, participants answered more survey questions regarding the experience. Surveys were completed before the therapeutic dose was administered, 2 weeks after consumption, and again 2 months after consumption.
On average, the first responders surveyed believed themselves to be at a moderate level of occupational stress. When asked to rate their quality of life out of 100%, 100 being absolutely fantastic, the average response settled at 60%. They were reaching burnout and had a low capacity for compassion. Each experienced improvement across the board after the therapeutic dose of magic mushrooms was administered.
According to survey responses, the group's average subjective stress dropped from a 2.2 moderate to 0.5 at 2 weeks and 0.3 at 2 months. Core PTSD symptoms dropped from an average of 2 to 0.5 at 2 weeks and 0.4 after months. Average quality of life rankings jumped from 60% to 92 and then to 95%. Feelings of job burnout and chronic occupational stress collectively decreased over time following therapeutic psilocybin. As for emotional and psychological breakthroughs, the participating first responders left feeling mildly more equipped to get back to their jobs. Few review their experience as an emotional breakthrough, but many reported facing difficult emotions they had been avoiding since receiving the dose. Most participants also expressed feeling a sense of closure following the magic mushroom trip.
4 out of 5 EMS workers returned to the job after the study. The one participant who did not share an increased emotional sensitivity, leading to issues completing work as a first responder. This participant informed researchers they would seek alternative employment following the psilocybin. Researchers noted that the same first responder chose to take the compound while on prescribed selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which may alter the mushroom experience. They ceased taking the SSRIs after 2 months and were the only participant to express the desire for another therapeutic dose after 2 months.
That makes sense. Yeah. Follow-up interviews with the other 4 participants concluded that each was positively overwhelmed that the experience allowed them to have life-changing psychological insights. They faced adaptive and maladaptive patterns and complex feelings. Each explored memories and emotions they used to resist, finding closure and solutions for previously enduring issues. First responders support people in life-changing moments, taking on the stress of the many situations they face. Given this new research, it seems worthwhile to continue to evaluate the effects of psilocybin on occupational stress. The limitations are many, but preliminary data indicates that magic mushrooms may have the power to relieve some of the burden on emergency workers.
There you go. That's good news, eh? It all starts someplace, right? They always start with a smaller study and go up.
Hmm.
Mm,
And even the person that was taking SSRIs, like, I mean, they're going into a different line of work, but they were feeling better. And
correct.
SSRIs mute the effects. So they should have taken about 30% more to get the full effect.
To get the whole full effect, eh? And
Hmm.
the fact that the person maybe did not return to that particular job, but the person was able to return to a
Return to
job.
work. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then asked for a therapeutic dose to do
Yeah,
it
they
again.
got off of their SSRIs and now like are wondering, would it help me more if I didn't? Like if I did it now, is
Yeah,
not on the SSRIs. Yeah.
yeah, correct. All right, on to the next story.
Oh, yes. Coming to us from the recorder, Amsterdam forms committee to review cannabis smoke shop zoning rules.
People think it's already legal there. What do they mean rules? Well, here we go. It's not legal there. A committee has been formed to review Amsterdam's zoning laws for cannabis businesses and smoke shops in order to recommend potential updates to regulations following concerns within the city about recent proposals. Now, according to Mayor Michael Cinquanti, he says, we just want to make sure we have the controls in place necessary in our codes to help us control the growth of this industry in our city.
Hmm. A 3-month moratorium was enacted on new applications for cannabis dispensaries and consumption lounges and smoke shops by local law last month to provide officials time to perform the zoning review and propose updated regulations. Volunteers on the zoning review committee include 2 ward aldermen, Rich Holiday, second ward alderman Rich Holiday, 4th ward alderman Christopher Carpenter, planning commission chairwoman Sandy Griffin, zoning board of appeals member Pam Stewart, housing inspector Grant Eagleston, and fire chief Anthony Agresta. Corporation counsel Anthony Casale will also advise the group.
The committee is expected to consider whether existing regulations provide sufficient safeguards to protect against oversaturation and inappropriate locations for cannabis businesses and smoke shops. Participation from planning, zoning, and code enforcement officials was considered critical as they are responsible for reviewing proposals and have insight into recently encountered issues.
They can share their opinion and thoughts about what they feel needs to be addressed so they can effectively do their job. If deemed necessary, the group will recommend updates of zoning laws for potential adoption by the Common Council, subject to a future public hearing.
Cinquanti, Halliday, and Carpenter have previously said existing regulations need to be revisited to consider changes, giving the city greater control over the location of cannabis businesses and smoke shops. They've raised concerns about the impact of such establishments opening in heavily trafficked areas and residential neighborhoods. Heavily trafficked areas? We keep encouraging things that are new to us that were not contemplated, since Cinquanti says.
Those concerns follow the approval over the summer of a controversial micro-business dispensary planned in a former bank building at 161 Church Street, despite widespread opposition from neighborhood residents and officials. Although they raised a number of issues related to the proposal, Planning Commission members questioned their authority to reject it when a license had already been issued by the State Office of Cannabis Management.
The board voted 4-2 to approve the application, although some members who ultimately voted yes expressed unease over the situation and said they were struggling with the application due to the steps completed during the state licensing process. City officials had believed requiring cannabis businesses to secure special use permits would provide the Planning Commission latitude to consider quality of life issues and other concerns posed by proposals when reviewing applications under zoning regulations adopted in June of 2023. Mhm.
They have since concluded that is likely not the case, and generally found the state's regulations have not provided the level of oversight or local input originally expected following the legalization of adult use cannabis. We don't want to leave it to the state. We don't like the way it's happened so far, and we want to put the controls on it before the problem continues, he said.
Existing rules allow dispensaries in the downtown core, employment, commercial corridor, and light industrial zoning districts. Consumption sites are allowed in the employment and commercial corridor zones. Manufacturing is allowed in the employment and light industrial districts. Marijuana businesses are not permitted in especially residential zoning districts. There are no zoning regulations specifically addressing smoke shops or businesses selling vape or tobacco products at this time. They currently fall under the same regulations as other retail sites. An ordinance adopted at the same time as the moratorium added definitions for smoke shops and related businesses to the city code. They don't have any regulations for tobacco products.
I don't know.
I found that odd that they wouldn't have that by now. But yeah, continue.
Yeah. The newly formed committee is expected to develop recommendations over the coming months for possible adoption before the moratorium expires, although it can be extended if more time is needed to complete the review process. We need to make sure, for the sake of investors and our city, we have this set of rules in place we can use to let investors know before they make commitments how Amsterdam is regulating this, he said.
Yep. Now meetings happen every month. So there you go. See what happens in Amsterdam in the coming months. I'm sure there's always something that's coming out of there, and I'm sure that something else will follow up down the road. So. All righty, last story before we go to break is
coming to us from cannabis.net. Ashamed of your body and feel uncomfortable in your own skin? Try shrooms. Psilocybin for BDD study released.
Wow. Pioneering research from Columbia University in New York suggests that psilocybin, the key component in magic mushrooms, may help people with body dysphoric disorder, BDD. The study, published in Psychedelics, looked at how psilocybin affected the brain activity in BDD patients, and it found significant alterations in brain connections that might help lessen the disorder's obsessive thinking patterns. A severe mental illness known as body dysphoric disorder is typified by an obsessive, illogical fixation on perceived physical defects that are usually undetected to others. Undetectable, yeah. Extreme emotional anguish brought on by these compulsive worries might result in social isolation, anxiety, and depression. BDD sufferers frequently get fixed on characteristics like body types, facial features, or skin texture. They continuously try to correct these flaws, usually by over-grooming, cosmetic surgery, or social distancing.
For many patients, especially those with severe instances, traditional therapies, including cognitive behavioral therapy and antidepressant drugs, have only patchy success. This has left a major percentage of the BDD population in search of more effective treatments. In this recent study, a single 25 milligram dosage of psilocybin, the hallucinogenic ingredient in magic mushrooms, was given to 8 persons with moderate to severe BDD using a Comp 360, which is a synthetic formulation made by Compass Pathways. Brain imaging and symptom evaluations were performed on individuals following treatment to better understand how psilocybin can help those who are caught in obsessive thinking cycles. The study found that a single dose of psilocybin improved brain connectivity significantly, especially in networks involved in cognitive control and emotional regulation. One of the most significant findings was increased activity in the executive control network, a brain area that controls decision-making, cognitive flexibility, and goal-directed behavior. The increased connection in the ECN implies that psilocybin may aid patients in breaking away from the inflexible flexible and compulsive cognitive process that defined body dysmorphic disorder.
Additionally, the ECN showed strengthened connections with the default mode network, a brain region involved in self-reflection and internal thought processes, often hyperactive in individuals with BDD. The improved communication between these networks may reduce the intensity of negative self-focused rumination, allowing patients to see themselves and their perceived flaws in a less critical and more objective light. Another key player, the Silence Network, which helps the brain prioritize important stimuli and emotions, also demonstrated improved cognitivity. This shift could potentially allow individuals with BDD to redirect attention away from their obsessive concerns towards more balanced and healthy thought processes. Crucially, these alterations in brain connections were long-lasting. Following a single psilocybin session, research participants reported continuing remission from their BDD symptoms, with benefits lasting for as long as 12 weeks. This prolonged duration of symptom alleviation is especially significant since it implies that psilocybin's effects on brain activity may provide long-term advantages, in contrast to traditional therapies that frequently need ongoing usage in order to preserve improvements.
These results demonstrate the ability of psilocybin to support long-term, more permanent changes in brain activity that promote emotional resilience and a healthy sense of self, in addition to its ability to reduce symptoms in the short term. While psilocybin therapy for body dysmorphic disorder has advanced significantly with this trial, the researchers warn that more thorough research is required before it can be widely used. Although there is cause for optimism, the results also point to significant shortcomings that need to be resolved in more research in order to properly comprehend the safety and efficacy of psilocybin for this particular issue.
The small sample size of this study, just 8 participants, is one of its main shortcomings. Though these were encouraging results, larger and more varied studies are needed to demonstrate that psilocybin may reliably provide comparable benefits in a broader population of BDD sufferers. It is also challenging to ascertain whether the claimed benefits were caused by the effects of psilocybin or were affected by other variables such as placebo effect or the controlled atmosphere in which the individuals were treated, because the study did not include a placebo-controlled group. Dr. Zhu, the lead researcher, and his team underlined the need for randomized controlled trials in appropriately assessing psilocybin's treatment potential for BDD. These studies would compare the effects of psilocybin to those of placebo or other therapies in a double-blind environment, with neither the subjects nor the researchers knowing which therapy was given. Such thorough research would give greater proof of psilocybin's efficacy and aid in the development of standardized dose regimes, both of which are presently missing in the area of psychedelic-assisted therapy.
Furthermore, the precise processes behind the long-lasting alterations in brain connections that psilocybin appear to bring about and which are correlated with the alleviation of symptoms remain unclear. It will take further investigation to learn how psilocybin interacts with the brain at the molecular level and why its effects tend to last long after the substance had left the body. Comprehending these pathways may aid in the improvement of psilocybin-based treatments and may augment their efficacy. The results of the study represent a significant advancement in the search for new treatments for disorders like BDD, which have traditionally resisted standard medical interventions, notwithstanding these obstacles. With the ongoing advancements in psychedelic research, psilocybin may prove to be an effective treatment for a variety of mental health conditions marked by compulsive thinking and skewed self-image, including BDD.
In summary, much more research is needed to confirm psilocybin's promise as a therapy for BDD, even if the current study offers a promising basis. Progress in this study and the realization of psychedelics' full therapeutic potential will require larger trials, placebo controls, and a better comprehensive of the medicine's effect on the brain. This groundbreaking study demonstrates that psilocybin's potential as a unique therapy for body dysphoric disorder, which can provide long-term symptom alleviation by modifying brain connections. The increased connection across brain networks involved in cognitive control, emotional regulation, and self-reflection shows that psilocybin may help lessen obsessive and negative thinking patterns. While the findings are encouraging, particularly for individuals who are resistant to standard therapy, further research with bigger sample sizes and controlled trials is required to validate the efficacy and safety of psilocybin for BDD. So there you go. Hey, they're finding new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, maybe it's just another small study, but that leads to a bigger
studies.
Yeah, that's right. Not everybody wants to go right in there with that big study right off the bat and not find any results. They want to see it in a smaller study and then up, right? So, all righty, it's time for us to take a break. Time to let people know who we are, not who we are, but let people know who makes our voices louder so they can hear what we're going on here with the news. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. We'll see you shortly. You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACEradio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at PACEradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or paceradio.net, where you will find the 420 page re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACEradio.net. And we're back for a medication session. Crash. All right.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'll just keep on talking here while you finish whatever you were considering during break, so that you don't have to speak with your mouth full.
I'm good.
All right, you're good. Maybe I'll just get started. How's that? All right, here we go. Next headline.
Yes, coming to us from The Guardian. Some vapes claiming to be cannabis contain synthetic cannabinoid.
Ooh. A new study from the University of Bath revealed that 7 vaporizers claiming to contain cannabis actually contained a much more dangerous synthetic cannabinoid compound. Earlier this year, the same lab published a study showing that over 1 in 6 vaporizers confiscated from school children across the UK also contained SCs.
Sam Kraft, an author on both studies, said his team decided to investigate the contents of 7 vapes that one person presented to a drug and alcohol service after experiencing strange effects. The person was an experienced cannabis smoker, says Kraft, and they had decided to switch to vaping because they thought it would be less harmful.
Cannabis is illegal in the UK, but this person got their vaporizers from a friend who sourced them from the US. When the person first started using these vapes, they described the effects as strong but enjoyable, says Kraft. But after a while, they started developing stomach cramps and irritability. Then, when they tried to stop, they started experiencing symptoms that are really consistent with synthetic cannabinoid withdrawal, panic attacks, severe anxiety, things like that.
Analysts of the vapes revealed that all of them contained the SC, 5-FMDMB P.A.C.E. There are hundreds of different SCs officially named with these letter number combinations and referred to colloquially as K2, spice, and other slang terms. Unlike natural cannabis, they are frequently associated with severe negative outcomes, including seizures and fatal overdoses. In England and Wales, SCs were responsible for nearly half of unnatural prison deaths from 2015 to 2020.
SCs are also illegal in the UK and the US. Still, they are showing up in the unregulated US hemp market that emerged as the result of the 2018 Farm Bill, which inadvertently legalized all cannabis-derived products containing less than 0.3% delta-9 THC. Cannabis is most well-known psychoactive compound. SCs are distinct with semi-synthetic cannabinoids like THCO and sometimes HHC and delta-8 THC, which can be made by combining natural cannabis extracts with synthetic materials and which are legal in much of the U.S.
Yeah, that doesn't mean they are without risk, according to Michelle P.A.C.E, who is a professor in the Department of Forensic Science at Virginia Commonwealth University. P.A.C.E.'s lab has studied the contents of vapes seized from a person who was arrested after experiencing schizophrenia-like symptoms. Her lab found the vapes contained semi-synthetic cannabinoids like THCO. Jim Crotty, a former DEA deputy chief of staff, says that SCs are appealing to illicit manufacturers because they are incredibly cheap to make and to sell. Instead of growing fields, manufacturers can make SC vapes with packets of powders they buy online.
Crotty says these products could be appealing to vulnerable populations with limited income, like youth and unhoused people, who might find legal dispensary products unaffordable. It's unclear how big this problem is, partially because consumers themselves are unlikely to know they are using contaminated products. P says most consumers will walk into any store and assume that someone has made sure whatever they are buying has been tested for safety, but There is not yet federal regulations for the legal hemp market. Nobody's watching what manufacturers put in their products, says P.A.C.E.
Crotty adds that cannabis is an easy drug to fake because it's so unpredictable. It doesn't fall neatly into any one of the drug categories, because depending on the amount, the potency, the individual that's using it, it could lead to different effects, he explained, adding that cannabis can feel like a stimulant, a depressant, a hallucinogen, or a little bit of all three.
Kraft says the SCs can seem similar to natural cannabis, especially in very small doses, like in the vaporizers they studied. But he said the risk of cardiovascular problems, the lack of consciousness, and the acute psychotic symptoms are going to be far higher. At the moment, it is very difficult to tell if unregulated hemp products are labeled accurately in the U.S. P says that if you live in a state with legal recreational cannabis, you are much safer buying products from an authorized dispensary, although these are not entirely without risk either.
Legal and industry efforts are underway to bring safety standards for currently unregulated hemp products at least up to par with the state legal cannabis industry. The Cannabinoid Safety and Regulation Act, introduced in Congress this past September, would empower the FDA to regulate hemp products. Some cannabis brands are taking it upon themselves to ensure products only contain what they say they do.
Recreational cannabis brand Wana launched a direct-to-consumer platform that sells vetted hemp products and also educates consumers on what products are safe. They say that we apply the same vigors of testing transparency and ingredients to the hemp side as we are to the regulated market, says Joe Hodas, the Wana CMO. But he says it's a tough and lonely road in a side of the industry that seems largely unconcerned with safety.
Wow.
Yeah. There we go. That's the end of that story. That's all she wrote. Yeah, here I got the vape pen.
Yeah, I got one here too.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Alrighty, on to the next story of the day, and this one is ready to go. Add to the stage. I clicked on the button.
Yes, coming to us.
Come on.
Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Trump and Harris need to stop pandering on marijuana and offer concrete plans for an equitable industry.
There's an op-ed which comes from these people here. As the 2024 election approaches, presidential candidates are scrambling to appear cannabis friendly. For the first time, cannabis is popular enough to warrant election season attention from both parties, but both campaigns are missing a crucial point. Most Americans oppose corporate cannabis monopolies. We're going to jail for smoking weed.
Yeah. This view was groundbreaking, say 15 years ago. But in 2024, candidates don't get a gold star for just recognizing the obvious. Of course, no one should go to jail for smoking weed, and nearly no one does. The number of federal offenders sentenced for simple possession of cannabis is relatively small and has been declining steadily for a decade, according to the U.S. Sentencing Commission. But the Last Prisoner Project estimates that more broadly, over 40,000 people are locked up for cannabis. What's the candidates' plans to free them? With 24 states plus DC having legalized cannabis, it's time for candidates to focus on what's best for millions of cannabis consumers and hundreds of thousands of workers, not just big company CEOs and shareholders.
My screen's bouncing around a little bit, but I think I got it under control. Voters came about equitable legalization that benefits consumers and workers not wannabe cannabis monopolies. Recent research by our organization, Parabola Research or Center for Law and Policy, revealed insights into Americans' views on cannabis legalization, going beyond the well-established fact that they don't support prohibition. In partnership with the RTI Institute, we found that 68% of American adults cared about social equity in cannabis policy, tied with ending arrests as their top concern. Less than one-third of those surveyed believe that cannabis legalization should benefit large corporations, including pharmaceutical, alcohol, and tobacco companies.
This aligns with broader attitudes. According to new polling by Public Policy Polling, 80% of Democrats think that the government should be doing more to take on corporate monopoly power. A separate survey by the market research company YouGov in 2023 found that 67% of those surveyed support antitrust law across industries. Meanwhile, Republican nominee Donald Trump was the first presidential nominee this cycle to endorse cannabis legalization. Trump, who has sometimes criticized corporate greed and whose administration originally brought the landmark monopoly case against Google, missed a major opportunity. Instead of criticizing big tobacco, alcohol, and pharma's involvement in cannabis legalization, a popular stance, he supported Florida's Amendment 3. This measure, primarily funded by cannabis giant Trulieve, would legalize possession for adults over 21 and give extraordinary market advantages to current medical cannabis operators.
Trump's change of heart came shortly after a meeting with Trulieve's CEO Kim Rivers. Trulieve has been no stranger to controversy. Screen jumped. From multiple alleged efforts of union bustings to the tragic death of employee Lorna McMurray at a now closed Massachusetts facility, which resulted in a combined $364,500 in fines from both federal and state authorities. But these fines pale in comparison to the $92 million that Trulieve has thrown at the campaign behind Amendment 3. As Rivers stated in an earnings call last year, the adult use opportunity in Florida is the most significant near-term catalyst for Trulieve. The result, the company's oversized market share of 40% eclipses the next three closest competitors, she told investors.
Along with the other medical licensees, Trulieve would be allowed to sell recreational cannabis if Amendment 3 passed. Florida's legislator could license additional adult use businesses. However, it wouldn't be required to. The opposition campaign has frequently referred to the amendment as the Monopoly Amendment, which led Trulieve to file a defamation lawsuit. A fact checked by Polyfax suggests that oligopoly would be a better description than monopoly, a market dominated by a few sellers rather than one. Whether it creates a monopoly or a few sellers rather than one, the potential dominance by a funder of measure like Amendment 3 raises serious concerns about market fairness and consumer choice. Amendment 3 lacks provisions for social equity, home cultivation, or restrictions on industry consolidation. The measure's passage would permanently alter the Florida medical market, impacting patients and workers and creating broad implications for future cannabis policymakers.
Just so you know, my screen is jumping all over the place. So
I hate it when it does that.
Oh, that's the end of it. Well, I think I saw that the story was over before it jumped again. Yeah, I'm gonna have to shut that down because I can't follow it along. So it may happen again before we're done here. So let's go on to the next story as I get it ready here.
Okay.
Just so many pop-ups, eh? So.
Oh, I know. Marijuana Moment's bad for that. Coming to us from MJ Biz Daily. Basketball great Carmelo Anthony enters new arena with cannabis brand Mission.
Carmelo Anthony wants to refine celebrity brands in the cannabis industry. The former professional basketball player has defied expectations throughout his career, from being chosen the NCAA Final Four's most outstanding player at the age of 19 to becoming one of the most dynamic scorers in the NBA, where his versatility on the court was always on display.
And while Anthony's 19-year pro career, which included 10 NBA All-Star selections and 3 Olympic gold medals, will likely lead to a first ballot induction to the Basketball Hall of Fame, today he's building a new legacy in the cannabis industry. Anthony launched the Grand National Agency with CEO Jesky Horton and co-founder Brandon Drew Jordan Pierce to improve community engagement and cultural inclusivity while helping new operators and smaller cannabis brands enter strategic markets.
Horton, a licensed cannabis cultivator in Portland, Oregon, co-founded the Minority Cannabis Business Association in 2015. Anthony says that it's about being intentionally with all growth and making sure we're creating opportunities for others. The NBA legend and cannabis entrepreneur, who will be a headline speaker at MJ BizCon on December the 4th at the Las Vegas Convention Center, addressed several other topics and initiatives with MJ Biz Daily, including the launch of his brand, the importance of cultural ties, and life after basketball.
What has been your journey with cannabis? It's evolved over time, but I have always been curious about the science behind cannabis. Over the years, I found myself studying and researching the many potential benefits that cannabis can offer.
It opened my eyes to the different ways people approach their health and how cannabis can be part of the conversation. Now, with Grand National, we set out to create something impactful by blending the different expertise of Brandon, Jesse, and myself.
One of my main priorities is to push for authenticity and to make sure we're not just another brand, but one that's rooted in quality education and community engagement. I spend a lot of time with our team discussing product development, marketing approaches, and how we can use Grand National as a platform for social equity initiatives.
They asked him, what diversity and inclusion initiatives are you championing in the industry? He says that we created Grand National to empower cannabis companies who share our same passion for culture, cultivation, and community.
With our first brand under the agency, Stay Mayo Cannabis, we partnered with Black-owned dispensaries in Oregon to carry the inaugural launch products. This company's name stems from Anthony's Milo nickname and the number 7 he wore for 9 of his NBA seasons.
Promoting the inclusion and diversity in the cannabis industry is something I'm passionate about, especially knowing how historically marginalized communities have been affected by cannabis laws.
Yeah. They asked why this venture is important to him and why did he decide to join one of the country's most challenging industries. He says that I chose to enter the industry because I ultimately wanted to leverage my platform to create more opportunities and lower the barriers for entry for communities of color. Since launching our brand and agency, our commitment to promoting inclusivity and diversity is a thorough line in everything we do.
We are focused on creating opportunities for people of color to enter and excel in the cannabis industry, whether through entrepreneurship, employment, or education. There you go. There is one more question. Do you place added importance on former athletes entering the cannabis space and helping to normalize use?
Of course, whether these athletes are investing in companies or just speaking out about how cannabis has benefited their health and wellness, these conversations are helping to open doors. The more we push to bring cannabis into the mainstream, the more we can normalize it to use and create opportunities for broader acceptance and understanding.
There you go.
Interesting.
All righty. Last story of the day. it's hopefully we can do it.
Hopefully it won't go jumping all over the place for either of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, here we go.
Heading back to marijuana moment, the DEA tries to disqualify witnesses for psychedelics ban hearing in a newsletter from October 7th, this morning.
Oh, did you get the newsletter page? I hope you didn't get the wrong one. The Drug Enforcement Administration is seeking to block certain experts from testifying in an administrative hearing about the agency's proposal to ban 2 psychedelic compounds that scientists say hold significant therapeutic potential. Ahead of the 10-day hearing that a DEA administration law judge scheduled for next month, the agency pushed back against the inclusion of multiple experts in the proceedings on the basis that the proposed testimony and exhibits are incompetent, irrelevant, immaterial, and or unduly repetitious.
Yeah, I've got something different than what you're reading.
You got the newsletter, correct? You're on the newsletter. If you go into about the second story, you'll find this one. I'll continue. Okay. You read down, you'll find it. DEA further asserted that while the head of the agency can consider arguments on barriers or hindrance to research in the event that the psychedelics, boy, those are big names. I'm not going to replace them. DOI, DOC are placed in Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act, allowing scientific experts to testify about the potential research harm without qualifying evidence, would result in a waste of judicial time and resources. You getting anywhere?
Nope.
No? Okay. The government argues the research harm evidence is not relevant to the issues and factors discussed above. DEA says that it's in spite of the fact that the federal officials have repeatedly discussed the barriers to research associated with drugs placement on Schedule 1. Yeah, they've done that in the past. They get in the way of things. And just so you know, I'm trying to send you the link, a new version of it. But this resource hog is just taking over everything here. and I don't think I can do it. Oh, hang on.
Okay.
Hang on. It's working now. There. I sent it to you in a private chat.
Got it.
It's because you got the newsletter link. You got ended up with the wrong link. Yeah. Following a public comment period, DEA ALJ panel or Paul Solfing in August set an administrative hearing on the issue with November 12th to 22nd, with a final meeting on November the 25th, according to shared with marijuana.
Okay.
Saying that agency is purporting much of the testimony and exhibits are incompetent, irrelevant, immaterial, and or unduly repetitious, despite the less rigid evidentiary rules that exist for administrative hearings, where courts have repeatedly established that in deciding what evidence may be permitted. How you making out? Find it?
I'm good. I'm in. Yeah. What
You're
is the DEA so scared of that these leading scientists must be muzzled? Robert Rush, a Denver-based attorney who is working with the SSDP on the DOI and the DOC case, said in a press release, by trying to silence the world's leading experts in neuroscience and pharmacology, the DEA is attempting to prevent the tribunal and the public from understanding the true potential of these substances. We vigorously oppose the DEA's efforts to stop scientific research and call on the tribunal to reject the government's motion to ensure that all relevant evidence is heard.
This all comes as DEA separately scheduled a December hearing to gain additional input on the Biden administration's cannabis rescheduling proposal, a move that will delay that reform from potentially taking effect until after the presidential election. Meanwhile, SSDP was among stakeholders who requested the psychedelics hearing in hopes of challenging what they view as a lack of evidence justifying DEA's proposed ban. Researchers have pointed out that DOI and DOC, as currently unscheduled substances, have been key components in psychedelics research that show potential in the treatment of anxiety and depression, for example.
Researchers have also argued that DEA has failed to meet the statutory burden of demonstrating that either psychedelic compound has high abuse potential. There are no documented cases in medical literature of distressing responses or death related to human consumption of DOI, nor has there been any established evidence of high risk or of dependence, SSDP said in a pre-hearing filing in July. Additionally, the research has been conducted over the last 35 years on these psychedelics, including studies funded by federal health agencies, has yielded evidence that they may be effective treatment options for chronic, acute, and neuropathic pain, addiction to opioids and alcohol, and other mental health disorders.
And whenever it help with a jumpy screen. Yeah, that's nasty. I unfortunately I'm gonna have to stop it there. You keep, if you want to keep reading along, go ahead.
Oh,
but
that's
unfortunately,
okay.
it's just bouncing
All over the place for you.
I couldn't even see where you were at. So,
yeah.
But the DEA not allowing evidence to come through because they just don't like the evidence. Shouldn't that be up to the panel or the judge, the people to decide?
Yep.
Where that is, and not the DEA.
Yeah, that's quite controlling of them.
Yes, it is, exactly. All right, as I can hear the cat wants in during the broadcast. The cat wanted in, cat wanted out, the dog wanted in, dog wanted out. Yeah. So whenever you were reading, I was running to the door. So, all right. Anything you want to say before we shut things down?
No, I think it's good. Have a great week, folks.
All righty. Everybody have a great week. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to Legacy420.com, Campbellford Lifestyle Shop at ease.ca, and Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. And to our viewers for tuning in the broadcast. And don't forget to educate, medicate, do not incarcerate. You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACEradio.net.